Good morning. Today's presentation, I wanted to present something. It's a bit shorter than our regular presentations, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how we handle communications when we have a relatively small event. So we're not talking about something large, but we're talking something about a leak or a discovery of a small break or so on a main or a sewage leak, that kind of thing. There are some steps we can take to work with communications here at AWWD to get that message out. So that's what this presentation will be discussing this morning. So one great thing about our organization is that we've got the talent and the crew to address any incident that might occur. A critical partnership part of getting situations resolved is communicating to a number of our target audiences. So of course we've got the media. Everybody's aware that they are probably one of the most important audiences. But then what about other audiences, such as the affected customers, specifically residents within that area where the event has occurred? Partnering utilities, if it happens to be on a border, that's also very important for us to be able to have combined communications and consistent communications. Board of Commissioners, obviously we want them to be aware of anything that might be going on in case they get questions or calls. And again, leadership, so that includes everybody at the senior level and our frontline staff. This is probably one of the most important aspects of communications when an incident occurs, because people will call into our agencies, and invariably our frontline staff are the ones that take those calls. So they've got to have consistent and accurate information as well. And then finally, of course, we're talking about the political or other POCs, the important people that we contact or engage in any kind of an event. So they might be elected officials and so, but these are some of the very important people that are communicated to. So we want to make sure that our message is accurate and timely. So there's a couple of things that we always have to emphasize because they are pretty critical, and these are the key elements of effective communication. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you're timely. Speed, you communicate early on, you get that information out there because people are going to be curious what's going on if you happen to be working on the street. We want to be accurate. We avoid using any kind of unconfirmed facts. We want to only focus on the information that we do know, and we'd like to be able to update that as much as possible too. Clarity, and this is really important. Remember that we've got a lot of different audiences, different education levels, different languages out there in the community. So we want to avoid jargon, use plain language. That's very, very critical that we keep that in mind too. Being consistent. Everyone who talks about an incident should have the same information. Very important as well. And then of course, the one thing we have to recognize that we are in a customer service sort of environment at all times. So we have to have empathy and understand what the impacts are to our customers, and then basically help them to resolve those impacts by continuing to keep the water flowing, to keep all the sewage services that we provide going. We have to make sure that we are serving our customer, bottom line. So we already have a pretty useful document. We've got the emergency booklet at M&O, and you can find that on Otis, and that kind of defines all the full procedures. It's a complex document, but it handles all the policies, procedures, that kind of thing on the entire incident, how we manage an incident. So while we're focusing just on the communication aspects, you'll find some information about that in the booklet as well. But I wanted to emphasize that the most important thing to remember is that people are going to have a handful of questions. The most important questions that we want to address is, one, what precisely has happened? Two, what's the immediate impact on the residents or the people that are affected by this incident? And then three, how quickly can we come up with a solution? So the process is that you think about answers to those. If you're the subject matter expert, if you're the incident commander, if you're the key person on site, think about those three key questions, come up with answers, and then work with communication so that we can draft them up into talking points to make sure that everybody in our agency has the exact same information and is providing that information to people call consistently. Okay, so we've worked with communications, we've developed the talking points, and we've circulated those talking points to a bunch of our folk, our frontline staff. Remember, they're the ones that are probably going to get calls that come into the agency. Our subject matter experts, it's important to make sure that the people who will go up on camera, like we're talking about the technicians, obviously public information would be the front line, but then the media always wants to talk to somebody who is a technical expert and so forth. So those are the subject matter experts. They should also have those talking points because they also want to make sure that we're being consistent in our messaging. Leadership, again, I mentioned the Board of Commissioners. They should have the same answers so that we're on the same page. All our messaging goes out, is accurate and consistent. And then following that, I might issue a media advisory, depending on how big the event is. We might do a press release or a media advisory. And again, the key thing is consistency of messaging. That's very important too. And following that, if necessary, we may do some targeted social media. We don't need to send a broadcast message out to our entire community if it's a small event isolated to one neighborhood, but we can target those neighborhoods using Nextdoor or very basic selected social media. So there's an option for that as well. And then if we have to, as I mentioned before, notify police, fire, and so forth, if we're rerouting traffic or if there's some traffic revisions, if we're closing a roadway to do some work, that communication also needs to be ongoing. Even though this presentation is a bit shorter than some of the other ones that we normally present once a month, I did want to just kind of give you an encapsulated overview of the communication aspect of emergencies and so forth. And of course, if we have a bigger event, if we have a catastrophic event like an earthquake or so, it's going to become much more complex. The communication is going to be multi-tiered and so forth. But this one was focused exclusively on smaller emergencies. There is still a communications protocol and a mechanism that we follow, or a model that we follow to get the information out there. It's smaller scale, but at the same time, it's just as important. So if you have any additional questions, go ahead and reach back to me. I'm available either through email, or you can give me a call or drop by the office. But the important message I want to leave you with is that when we do have an incident, engage communications, myself, there in the admin office as early as possible. Let's get some messaging put together. Let's figure out precisely what we need to do to reach our audience, and then we'll go ahead and effectively deliver that and conduct our outreach, and then hopefully we can overcome the issue and move on to our regular operations. Thanks a lot for your attention.